Miller, one of the vice presidents of Chick-fil-A, and an author and speaker and all-around leadership expert. Mark, I'm so thankful you're here with us today.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
All right, so you write, you speak, you have a blog, you have the opportunity to equip and encourage leaders literally around the world. How did you ever even get into this?
You speak.
Well, I tell folks I'm the accidental author. The journey actually started almost 15 years ago. In our organization, we found ourselves with a bit of a crisis on our hands. We needed more leaders faster. We actually looked over our shoulder at our leadership bench, and we didn't have leaders ready. And so I was given the opportunity to try and solve that problem. How do you accelerate leadership development? And I did what I think you would do in a similar opportunity. I put together a team of really smart people. And I said, hey, we get to figure this out for our organization. And one of the things we discovered early on is that we didn't have a common definition of leadership. One of the things we discovered is there are over 6,000 published definitions. But there are a lot of unintended negative consequences if people within an organization have a different point of view. So we set out to try and articulate our point of view. And we did all the things that you would expect. We did interviews and global benchmarking. We read a couple hundred books on leadership. And we were really trying to immerse ourselves in the topic because remember, we sell chicken for a living. So we were really trying to be diligent with this. And after much work, we reached some conclusions about our point of view on leadership. And for the last 15 years, we've been trying to inculcate those. And along the way, others have found some of those ideas useful, and I've been trying to share those any way I can.
Mark, when you say you found your ideas on leadership, your organization's ideas, those ideas to an outsider appear to be very different than what maybe a traditional view of leadership would be. I think a traditional view of leadership is somebody's in charge and they tell everybody else what to do and those people do it and the followers serve the leader. And you talk about this concept of great leaders serve. What does that mean?
Yes, what we actually did, we believe, is we rediscovered some truths about leadership that actually you'll first find reference over 2,000 years ago when Jesus' disciples came to him and they said in Matthew chapter 20, they were talking about positions of leadership. And he said, you don't even understand leadership. He said, those that want to be the greatest among you have got to be willing to become servants. And that informed our thinking. We basically said, we're trying to figure out how to make leadership both behavioral and contextually relevant in our organization. And what we decided, as Jesus said many years ago, great leaders serve.
It's a really interesting concept. And when you talk about serving, how does that play out? If you're the head of an organization or if you're a single mom or a dad who maybe is a mid-level manager, what does leadership look like?
Well, it was a fun journey. Based on all the research I mentioned earlier, one day we asked the question, what is it leaders really do? And I think we came up with 1,234 things. I mean, it was quite validating. That's why leadership is real work. But it was also daunting, and it was unwieldy and unmanageable. And we said, can you imagine going back to the organization and saying, here are the 1,234 things leaders do. We'll start working right away on the training curriculum. We knew that was not going to work. And so the question was asked,
this is an ad for a project management tool called Monday.com. This is what it looks like, and this is what it feels like.
And I'm going to show you the 5 setup. You'll want to copy the stream name / key. So to do that, you want to click the now make sure that you keep this key to your stack into OBS selected. Jest server selected. Next, we are going to assume that you courses to in later tutorials, and then it's going to then you hit OK. Everything to make sure the problem that happens in that situation is usually between the streaming page. From there, you want to make sure that you put your title and your description just like you normally would for a video, because these live videos, when you do them, they can rank as well. So you want to make sure that you get everything together in your meta. And for your tags, you want to make sure that you click on the advanced settings here. And when you do that, then you can click on basic info, and then that will allow you to add your tags there as well. So once you have that part of it set up, I strongly strongly recommend that you do a private stream first or an unlisted stream that you share with friends so that you can, make sure that your audio, as long as everything is set up the way that you want to, then you go back into OBS and then you hit start streaming. And when that happens, you'll keep an eye on this up here where it says offline, and then once your stream starts going through, it's going to say starting, and then right now it is telling me that I am live. So one thing you can do is you can test your audio sync right here on this, or you can also test your audio sync by actually opening up your channel page and going to the specific URL of your stream, which would be whatever your channel is /live. Then once your stream is over, all you have to do is go back into OBS and you hit stop streaming, and then
certainly don't try to change it, because we're going to give God the benefit of the doubt. You are wired the way you're wired. But if you want to maximize your leadership potential, you've got to move to step 2, and that is to compensate for your bias. The example I often use is you would never think a leader who wears glasses is a lesser leader because he or she has chosen to wear glasses. You might even think they're wise, because they found something they didn't do particularly well and they've compensated. So in this example, what you have to do is say, what is my prescription? What level of compensation do I need? And I'll give you just one example, because when I tell this story, people go, I got lost somewhere in there. Here's a simple way to think about it. If you're more results-oriented, the only compensation you may need is to put some people around you who are more relational, or vice versa. It could be that simple. And of course, it may be more complex than that, because some have poorer eyesight than others, and some's bias is stronger than others. But there's tremendous power when we can embrace both, and your organization will soar.
Mark, you have the opportunity to influence leaders and to train leaders, but I have a feeling there's been some inspiration for you, or you've had the opportunity to work with leaders. Tell me about a truly remarkable leader that you've worked with and what they did that really sticks out in your mind.
Well, I've had the privilege to work with a lot of amazing leaders. You mentioned in the introduction that I work for Chick-fil-A. I don't know if the entire audience is familiar with Chick-fil-A, but it's a fast food restaurant company. And I had the privilege to be the 16th corporate employee. Now, we're a $5 billion company today, but I was number 16, and I was just a kid. But I got to sit around the lunch table with great leaders. And I think it was Yogi Berra who said, you can observe a lot by looking. And I was trying to pay attention. And so I feel like I grew up around great leaders. Many of them I got to interact with on a daily basis. And I'll tell you, the thing that probably had the most profound impact on me, because there were many, is the 5th practice in the SERVE model is great leaders embody the values. I got to spend my career around men and women who walked the talk. They were authentic, they were genuine. They weren't perfect, no leader's perfect, but they gave their best efforts. If they said something was important, they lived like it was important. And here's why I think that's so important to me and you and anybody watching this. If we don't embody the values, if we don't walk the talk, we'll forfeit the opportunity to do those other practices.
Yeah. You know, this program, 100 Huntley Street, Crossroads, is led by a great CEO, Dr. John Hull, but it comes from a legacy of a great founder who started the organization, and it's being carried on. I know Chick-fil-A had an incredible founder. Talk about how Truett Cathy embodied the values.
Yes, as some may know, Truett passed away just recently, and he lived a long, productive life. He died at the age of 93, and he was the ultimate servant leader. I mean, he lived those 5 practices that I shared earlier. From his early days in the restaurant business to the way he treated us, to the culture he created for engagement, the fact that he was always reinventing. That's how he invented the actual chicken sandwich. Nobody sold a boneless breast of chicken on a bun until Truett Cathy started doing it in the early 60s. He certainly valued results and relationships and modeled that for all of us. And as I said, he walked the talk every day. So he was a tremendous inspiration to me and to all of us that had a chance to work with him.
Mark, I know you have a lot of great resources. There's ways that people can learn more. What's the best way through your resources and others for leaders to stay in touch and to really grow and develop themselves?
Well, here are a couple of questions there. As far as staying connected with me, I do have a website, greatleadersserve.com, and I'm working diligently to post 3 times a week. There are other resources there. There are free assessments and other digital resources, even my reading list. People ask me all the time, can you recommend some books? So there's a reading list there. And I'm trying to make that a site to serve leaders. On Fridays, I answer a question submitted from leaders around the world. So there's a place there. If people want to send questions, I'll try to respond to those, and we can continue the conversation. As far as growing, I will say this. Ken Blanchard and I had the privilege to do a book several years ago called Great Leaders Grow. And in it, we outlined 4 strategies for personal growth. And it's been quite encouraging to me that leaders have said that's actually helped them. Because when you're in school, other people's direct your growth. But when you get out on your own, if you're not in an organization that has a strong bias towards development, you realize it's up to you. And so that might be a resource that would serve some of your viewers.
That's great, and I hope they'll check out your other books. Great Leaders Serve, and a lot of opportunities through your website for them to get your resources. Thank you so much for taking time, for being with us, and thank you for what you do to pour into leaders.
It's my pleasure.
Hi, I'm Kevin Scott with 100 Huntley Street, and I am joined here today by Mark Miller, one of the vice presidents of Chick-fil-A, and an author and speaker and all-around leadership expert. Mark, I'm so thankful you're here with us today.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
All right, so you write, you speak, you have a blog, you have the opportunity to equip and encourage leaders literally around the world. How did you ever even get into this?
Well, I tell folks I'm the accidental author. The journey actually started almost 15 years ago. In our organization, we found ourselves with a bit of a crisis on our hands.